Call the regular school committee meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded by the Peabody School Committee's recording secretary, Leanne Harris. The matters listed below are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. If everyone could stand for a moment of silence. Okay, great. And Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First, I'd like to congratulate and welcome Ms. Kara Mertag. She's her first school committee meeting as superintendent, and would you like to introduce your team?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Olympio. I am thrilled to be superintendent of schools, and I want to welcome and I'm honored to introduce two returning colleagues with us, Ms. Ruth Ruby, who is our special education director, who is over there in the corner, and Steve Farrell, director of human resources. And I am honored to be sitting next to Dr. Christopher Lord, our new assistant superintendent, and our new business manager, Tom LaFleur. So our new team, this is our new cabinet at central office at 27 Wall Street.
Welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Mertag. So now we'll go to approval of minutes.
Make a motion to approve the regular school committee meeting minutes of July 17th, 2018.
Second.
Roll call vote.
No, June 26th, 2018. Sorry, amend the motion.
We're already done with that for August.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Arnott?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Okay, great. Approval of bills.
I'll get it right. I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant A, number 3873, dated June 27th, 2018, in the amount of $42,406.73, subject to audit.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Myko?
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Arnott?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant B, number 3875, dated June 27th, 2018, in the amount of $154,724.00, subject to audit.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Myko?
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Arnott?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Carpenter. On to continued business, MSBA Higgins project. Ms. Dunn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next meeting for the Higgins School Building Committee will take place next Thursday on July 26th. We're a week off on schedule only because we want to be able to hear some more news about deadlines and the process of closing out the project. So the meeting will take place here at 4 p.m. It's open to the public. We'll discuss some of the regular topics that we normally have on our agenda as well. The landscaping. There are several things being done presently. As you arrived, you probably saw that the tiles out front are being replaced, and that should all of this work that's being done now is to prepare for the opening of school in September. So that's moving along. There are several smaller issues in the building that are being taken care of, and those will be reviewed at the meeting.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Dunn. School start times, Mr. Hoffman?
Thank you. At our last meeting in June, I alluded to these sample surveys that
Yep.
were, so here they are. We could do this in a couple of ways, and I would defer to Ms. Carpenter since she's chairing the subcommittee. We could all take these and review them if we haven't already, and identify questions that we're happy with for the August meeting so that a survey can be put together before school starts in September, or we could do that as we sit here. I think the former is more, yeah. So I would ask the committee to review these surveys and any other survey that you feel is appropriate, and let's come up with the questions that you think are appropriate. If you don't think the questions are appropriate and you're able to tweak it in a manner that is you're more comfortable with that language at the next meeting, and hopefully that would allow the administration some time to compile the survey so that it's available for distribution the first or second week of classes, and then we can maybe take it up again first meeting in October after there's some time to collect the data and figure it out.
Ms. Carpenter?
Thank you. Mr. Hoffman, that sounds good to me. If everybody wants to do their homework at the beach over the next month and then come back and be prepared to kind of get a final list, and then we can have Marge put it together, or whomever, Ms. Murtagh, and get it ready for September, it sounds good to me. Is that?
Sure.
Okay, so can we put it on for the next agenda
Right, and for discussion.
for discussion and to be ready to strike out and include and change? Very good.
Okay. Good evening. I apologize for being late. I was actually at another meeting, and sorry I missed the beginning. We're on continued business. Item number 3, FKO enrollment numbers. Mr. Hoffman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, I don't know why this is under my name. I didn't ask for this, but I'm happy to talk about it. It looks like a compilation of the enrollment for before-school programs and after-school programs, broken down by school and day of the week. And it looks as if FKO is healthy in terms of enrollment. I personally know that they do a fantastic job. My children, 2 of my children, have participated in their programs at the center school. I'm very pleased with the services that are being offered, and I guess I can answer questions if there are any.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Any questions or comments regarding FKO? Okay. Thank you. Next item is the 2018-2019 school committee meeting schedule. Do we have a motion to receive the updated schedule?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Heard the motion by Mr. Hoffman to receive the updated committee schedule, seconded by Mr. Myko. All in favor? That's a unanimous vote. Go to public participation. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come forward and speak? The microphone is open. Okay, thank you. Now we're going to go over to our new superintendent's first report.
First report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to invite Gianna Mokes Santiago and Diana Mokes to come to speak to us about Faith Christian Academy, as that was on our last agenda, and they're going to give us some more information about Faith Christian Academy.
Good.
Oh, we got a microphone, great. How fun.
Well, welcome to you both. Nice to have you here, and please begin and tell us a little bit about the Christian Faith Academy.
Sure. So, well, you want to say something?
Giving thanks for the opportunity that you guys are giving us to be here.
So I'm Gianna. I'm the assistant administrator, and this is, well, I call her Mrs. Mokes, but this is my mother. It's Diana, and she's the administrator of our school. We've been a school since 2008. We were formerly in Lynn, and then we decided to move because we needed to expand to Peabody. Yep. And we are a private, sorry, I'm a little sick. I don't want to cough into the microphone. We're a private school that we need approval from the superintendent or the school committee to be able to have an exempt from EEC, which is something that they require. It's a requirement that they have.
Great. And I'm sorry, I had missed the earlier meeting. Can you maybe just talk a little bit about number of students you have, the grades,
So we're K through 12. Right now, we have kindergarten through 8th grade this year. We have 10 students currently enrolled. We are waiting to promote in Peabody once we have the approval, just so that we can have everything in order. And then we're projecting about maybe 20 students around there. It's a very small school.
Sure. Can you talk a little bit about your curriculum and what you focus on?
We use ACE. It's a Christian or a religious-based curriculum. They've been around for
More than 45
around
years.
45 years. The curriculum's used worldwide. I believe in the U.S. they have maybe over 400 schools that use the curriculum, and it's an individualized curriculum. So it's kind of strange. We're a one-classroom school. All of the students are in one classroom. So we have all of our grades from second grade, or first grade, all the way to 8th grade, all in one classroom.
Okay. Is it you two teaching? Do you have other teachers that assist you, or how does it work?
We have what we call supervisors, and they're the ones that do the instructing. And then we have also a class monitor, which helps with the students. And the students have study carrels, so they don't have a traditional desk, they have a study carrel, and when they need help with a question on math or English or whatever class they need help with, they raise a flag and we go to them and we help them. So we have a supervisor and a monitor in each classroom.
Great. And where are you? You're based, where's your location right now in Peabody?
We're in Pulowski Street, so there's warehouses and a few other stores, and then rear Pulowski Street.
Okay. Any questions, Mrs. Carpenter?
Sure.
Thank you. Welcome. I appreciate you
Thank you.
coming here to answer questions. I heard you mention EEC. Did you say you're licensed through EEC?
So we have to attain an exempt from licensure because we are teaching students that are not, well, we do kindergarten, but since we teach students that are 6 and older, we have to be approved as an alternative to a public school.
You have to get the exemption from EEC?
From licensure. Mhm.
Have you already done that?
That's what
This is.
Mhm.
So this is the exemption from the EEC
Right.
license? Because I was curious, because that's usually younger.
Right.
And your administrators, I know he asked, who are the administrators? Is it?
She's the administrator, and I'm the assistant, or the administrator in training.
Is there a cost to go to the school?
There is. There's a tuition. There's, students pay tuition.
Oh, sorry.
We do tuition, student fees, and they have to pay for their curriculum.
Do you take vouchers for students to go?
We cannot unless we have the approval.
It's
then
all
we-
pending on this,
Mhm.
and then you can. Is that something that you will do?
We want to, yes. There's a lot of students that want to be enrolled in, for example, the after-school program, but they can't afford it, so we are.
And once this process is done, you would be able to start
We'd be able
going through
to
the
cater
state
to more.
to accept vouchers and apply for your exemptions?
Correct, but I believe it only applies to students under the age of 5 or 6. It wouldn't
Yeah,
be for the older kids.
You might be able to do 7, yes. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Good. Any other questions? Mrs. Dunn?
Thank you for coming, and thank you for providing all the materials.
problem.
I just have one question. Everything addressed all the other questions, but as far as your record keeping, I know that's one of the requirements for the state for keeping student records safe and accessible, if someone needed a transcript. Do you have a system for that?
We do. I actually,
Put it in the packet, Mrs. Dunn. It was-
We
No,
have-
I wasn't, I couldn't fit it in the packet,
Yes.
but it's in my office if you'd like to see it, yes.
so the curriculum that we use, they require that we keep our records in a neat order and in a certain way, and they sent us an example of how to keep our records. So we have attendance, standardized testing, entrance exams, all of the things that we need in order, and we have them in their files.
Thank you.
No problem.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Mr. Olympio?
Yeah, just for a point of information for the public that, we're required by law to either approve or disapprove this school, and the school committee is not evaluating, the program, or we're not endorsing the program in any way. It's just, I want the public to know that, that we're required by, under Mass General Law, Chapter 76, Section 1, we have to either approve or disapprove this program.
We have to, as a school committee, we would vote to approve a private school
Yeah.
operating within the district.
Yep.
I believe it's because of, you're the authority in education. And
Right.
that would
Yeah,
be.
but we're not evaluating the
Right,
program, or we're not publicly
Endorsing.
endorsing the
Yeah.
program, so.
Good point, Mr. Olympio. And I'll just read the one paragraph that really focuses on our responsibilities. And this is for Chapter 76. For this section, school committee shall approve a private school when satisfied that the instruction and all the studies required by law equals in thoroughness and efficiency and in the progress made therein that in the public schools in the same town, but shall not withhold such approval on account of religious teaching and in order to protect children from the hazards of traffic and promote their safety, cities and towns may appropriate money for conveying pupils to and from any schools approved under this section. So it's our authorization to allow them to operate within our district. We're not making any,
I believe it's similar to what you do when you do homeschooling approval.
yes.
Yes.
Yep.
So,
Great. Any other I'll go to Mr. Arnottis, then to Mr. Myko. Mr. Arnottis?
Just kind of piggyback on that. There was, let me go to it so everyone's on the same page here. If you look under frequently asked questions, and it talks about periodic review of the school. So we could do a one-time approval, but I think it's recommended that they, by whoever determines whether it's the state or whomever, that we put in some amount of time to review them again. So whether it's a year or 2 years, however we want to do it. But I think when we ultimately most likely approve this, we should have some time frame in this that we would check in with you guys. I don't know what everyone thinks of that, but whether it's a year or 2 years, it is recommended right in the materials we have.
Yeah.
So I think that's something we need to make sure we do before moving forward.
And we have a field representative that does yearly checks also. So it could actually even be when they do that, we have a report that we give them.
Thank you. Good suggestion, Mr. Arnottis. So you'd be willing to work with us and come back in and provide, great. Mr. Myko?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the chair. Thank you for coming. I was just reading through your brochure here. I mentioned something about break schedules and privileges in a privileged area. Could you just elaborate on that?
Sure.
please?
So we do everything on incentives, and we try to have the children, I guess, do their best because of incentives. So we have a merit system, and students that have shown that they have excelled in the week of instruction, they receive privileges. For example, they have, instead of 15 minutes of a snack break, they'll be able to have 20 minutes of a snack break. They'll be able to listen to music while they do schoolwork, or we have a break area with games and like chess, checkers, and they're able to have extra time there once they reach privileged status. Not only, but they have their break schedules that are set, but then it would be just extra breaks.
What is your behavior plan in the school
Behavior
in
plan.
regards to students' performance and conduct or
Okay.
citizenship?
Sure. So we have, like I said, a merit system, and then we also have a demerit system, depending on different rules. So, for example, if you don't do your homework, you would receive 1 demerit for that. And then once you reach 3 demerits, we move into detentions. And it's basically just a merit and demerit system. We have a set of rules that we show them. And it's basic rules, if you don't do your homework, if you come late, that's more for the older students. If you're talking during class, if you're not respectful towards the adults, then we teach them that everything has a consequence.
And do you have additional support for students who might be special needs or special education students?
At this point, we don't offer anything for students that are special needs because we don't have the staff for it. So unfortunately, that's not something that we can offer yet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Myko. Mr. Hoffman?
Thank you. Before I ask questions, and thank you for being here, I have to tell you how highly uncomfortable I am with this subject, and I frankly think that this statute is unconstitutional. I don't think we have any say in faith-based education. With that being said, we are charged, I guess, with asking you some questions. So this isn't new to you. You've been operating a school for a while, I think in
10
Lynn,
years.
right?
This is our 10th, well, it was our 10th year.
10 years. And when you were in Lynn, and it was in Lynn for 10 years?
Yes.
And when you were in Lynn for 10 years, I suspect, actually, I don't know, but, the statute is at least amended in 2007. So you would have gone through a similar process with the Lynn School Committee?
We did. Mhm.
Yeah, and how frequently was your program reviewed by either the school committee or the school superintendent or anyone from Lynn?
When did we get the approval from Lynn? 2 years ago?
Yeah, but they don't have to do it again and again.
Just once?
Because
did it
after
once.
that, we're gonna keep working with EEC,
Yeah.
and they're the one who's gonna be like following us.
That's right, EEC still has, not EEC, excuse me, DESE still has oversight, right?
EEC, early.
EEC, I know, but DESE still has oversight.
I'm not sure what that one is.
Department of Education.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right?
So we weren't aware that we needed the approval until I came in as administration and started looking through the requirements. And then that's when we contacted the Lynn Educational Department, or the committee, so that we can then receive approval. But after that, they did not do any other follow-ups.
Okay, and like I said, I'm really not terribly interested to getting too deep into your business, because I think it's your business. But over the 10 years, how many students have graduated from your school?
Well, so far we've had, because of the cost, a lot of students cannot continue to complete graduation. Once you get into high school, it gets a little bit more expensive. But we have had one student graduate, and they're currently in college.
So you have 100% college
Right.
enrollment?
In reality, we don't have any dropouts so far.
And no dropouts, that's great. Well,
It actually happens to be my younger brother.
Oh.
And he's in Gordon College now.
Congratulations. Through the chairman to the superintendent, if I may, does this essentially private parochial school get treated like other private parochial schools in the city in the sense of transportation and other policies that we have in our handbook?
Not that I know of with, it's not like St. John's or St. John's the Baptist. They are under the Archdiocese, and we do transport them. Not that I know of with Faith Christian Academy.
So they're somehow treated through you, and maybe I'm speaking rhetorically, I don't know that I expect an answer, Ms. Martag. We're charged by statute with reviewing this school, presumably for fitness. As Mr. Olympio said, not necessarily, and there was specific language in here, not necessarily, and I want to use that language if I can. Bear with me, I'm sorry. We're not endorsing this school and or their programs, and we're not evaluating it, but we're charged with, I guess, determining fitness if that's the case. And I think we have that same charge with other, whether it's homeschool students, which we've learned about in the last couple of years, or other, I think, faith-based schools. I mean, I think that we have an obligation, at least to go through this process at some point with other faith-based schools who have privileges, who have rights, either provided by the legislature or through our own policies. And I don't see why this school would be treated any differently if they're going through the same procedure. And maybe that's just my 2 cents. If you wish to respond, that's fine. But like I say, I don't necessarily expect you to.
I think one thing I'd like to add is that we would determine if the instruction is consistent with the laws of the Commonwealth. So one of the questions I asked Gianna in one of our settings was, they have to follow the 900 hours for elementary and the 990 or the 900 for elementary and middle, and 990 for high school. So that is consistent with the instruction of...
It seems, thank you for that response. It seems to me with the materials that are provided to us that their scheduling is much more rigorous than ours. Your students Is summer school a mandatory component?
If the students do not complete the requirement for their school year, yes.
And you start school, it looks like August 5?
We're
Yeah, it
starting,
says-
August 5th would just be, it's an event in August 5th, I believe, the back-to-school, maybe barbecue. But we're starting, I believe,
August
the week-
23rd
the week
is the
before
first
Labor
day of
Day.
school. But yeah, there's a back-to-school rally August 5th, but the first day of school is August 23rd.
Good, good for you for educating students, and it's not in the traditional sense that we, as a body, typically govern. But, different folks learn in different ways, and they're good. Thank you for are any of the students Peabody residents, by the way?
We don't have any Peabody residents right now, but
Okay.
once we go through the approval, then we are.
Well, let's hope everything goes successfully for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Mr. Myko, another question?
Sure. Thank you, through the chair. In the brochure, it mentioned something about helping students with vision problems.
Right.
Could you elaborate on the methods and?
So it's more determining to see if they, when I was in school, I couldn't see the board, and I didn't know that I needed glasses for far away, so it's more determining to see if they will need to be evaluated with their vision. So we do certain tests to see, it's more for the younger kids too, to see if they will need any vision help. I don't know if that answered your question.
Okay.
We do it with vision, with, for example, students that may have dyslexia. We try to do different things to find out what the child's weaknesses or strengths are in learning, and then use that to help them learn.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Myko. Are you all set? Did you? Okay. Mrs. Dunn? That's very nice of you. Mr. Olympia?
No, just through the chair, Ms. Murtagh, so under Chapter 76, Section 1, the next to last paragraph, it'll say, it says, except as herein provided, pupils who attend approved private schools of elementary and high school grades shall be entitled to the same rights and privileges as to transportation to and from school as are provided by law for pupils of public schools, and shall not be denied such transportation because their attendance is in a school which is conducted under religious auspices or includes religious instruction in its curriculum. So if I read the statute, it says that they're entitled to busing.
Mr. Mayor, on this point, if I may?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's would be germane if we had Peabody residents going to school. We're not obligated, I don't think.
Okay,
under
we're
the-
not obligated.
We're not obligated to transport
Okay.
students outside of the city into the city.
Okay. But if there are Peabody residents, we would have to.
I believe we are.
Yeah,
I believe so.
okay.
yeah.
Just why I want to be clear on that.
If I would defer to Ms. Dunn, if they fit within our policy. So in other words, if they're elementary age and they're more than half a mile
Right.
away from the school, whatever our
Right.
policy is
Okay.
for transportation, it should be the same for students, Peabody resident students of this school.
Right. But if they're Lynn residents, we're not, okay.
Okay. Does Lynn provide transportation for you now?
So I remember, they don't do it right now, but I do remember that they had said that they were going to review all other policies, so I know that every child is assigned a certain amount of, I think, money or something, and they wanted to review that and see what would happen with that, but they never followed up, so I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Olympio. Mrs. Dunn?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that in the past, we did have to go through, the school committee did have to go through this process with another school in Peabody a long time ago. And one of the criteria for that approval has been very well completed by Ms. Murtagh and Dr. Levine. I know you went out and visited the school 3 or 4 times, met with the administrators. We've been provided with all of their materials. And basically, the reason that we're involved as a school committee in giving the approval for this school to operate within the boundaries of our city is so that any students who attend will be covered by the requirement of compulsory attendance at a school. And all of the criteria for the program have been met. I know we have copies of all of the certificates from the fire department and the health department and everything. So I would like to make a motion at this time that we approve the application of the, oh my goodness, I'm sorry.
Easy.
Faith Christian Academy.
Faith Christian Academy, I was just going to say that the Faith School, Faith Christian Academy, that they have met with the requirements that we are bound by as a school committee.
I'll second.
Okay, you've heard the motion by Mrs. Dunn for approval, seconded by Mr. Olympio. A couple of comments or questions on the motion. First, Mr. Arnottis, then to Mr. Myko.
Just again on the motion, and I don't want to rain on the parade here. You seem like great people, but I do feel like we're going into this, at least I feel like I'm going into this a little blind. And I know there was some comment about DESI, and it does say in here that, you know, a flat no, DESI is not going to have influence over this. If you look at the first question, does the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education or any other state agency have responsibility for approving private schools for purposes of the compulsory school attendance law? No. So it comes to us. Now, I will direct you all, if you can, to number 6. Once a school is approved, is the approval subject to renewal or periodic review? And I do think we should take a look at that. Although not required by statute, school committees are encouraged to adopt a private school approval policy that incorporates a periodic review of previously approved schools. School committees may also adopt a policy under which approval is valid under substantial changes are made in the private school's program at which the private school must seek reapproval. So I don't know whether we have a private school approval policy on the books already, but whether we do or whether we don't, I do think we should have some language in here to make it clear that if there are substantial changes in your curriculum and the way you guys run things, that you have to come back and see us for that. If we don't do that, I don't think I would be comfortable approving this, but I'll open it up to everyone else for what they think.
Thank you, Mr. Arnottis. Mr. Myko?
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the motion, first of all, do you operate another school other than Lynn in the state, or would this be the only school?
Yeah, we closed down the school in Lynn, and we're just doing Peabody now.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Dunn?
I agree with Mr. Arnottis as far as requiring a policy on our end for review, especially if a school did substantially change. So if we don't have an adequate policy now, and offhand, I really can't tell you, but I do think we should implement that and have that type of a policy for our district.
Okay. Briefly, Mr. Myko?
Just another item on, when did you know that you weren't going to be in Lynn? And that's the first question. The second question is, are you looking to start August 5th of this year?
August 22nd.
Oh, I'm sorry,
of
August
this year.
20, what is it?
23rd.
23rd?
23rd of this year,
Of this year.
of this upcoming year. Okay. All right, thank you.
Good. Mr. Arnottis?
Through you, are you guys considered a nonprofit or a profit?
We're nonprofit.
Nonprofit.
Actually, just so you can know that it's more caring about the children than anything. She's the administrator and receives no salary. There's absolutely nothing. And I receive maybe half of what a normal teacher would receive. So in reality, it's just to be able to help the kids. Not all, unfortunately. I guess, I mean, you're all aware that education isn't a one-size-fits-all. So we just try to help the children that wouldn't be able to strive in a traditional educational setting. But we are a nonprofit, to answer your question.
Okay. All right, we have a motion in front of us for approval. You good? Or would you like?
Ask away.
So are we sticking with that, or are we going to?
So what did you want to amend the motion to say that, would you be okay with coming back in a year and, we see how things went after your first year and
Definitely.
review your
that
progress?
Keeps us on our toes.
And if we don't have a private school policy at that point, maybe, well, hopefully we would. At at that point,
No,
if it's a
that's
year
fine.
away.
But would that be agreeable to you, just so, being your first year in Peabody, that we can, see how things are going and review your
Not a problem.
progress?
It's perfectly.
Great.
No problem.
So that would be an amendment to the motion. So it would be approval with the condition that you would return next year at this time, and again, we can see how things are going.
Sounds great. We'll make it a date.
All right, it's a motion made by Mr. Arnottis on the amendment, seconded by Mr. Olympio.
Question
Question on the motion, Mrs. Carpenter?
through the chair to, do you have 10 children there now? Is that what you said?
Right now, I believe we have 10 re-enrolled.
So were these the kids that, when you closed down in Lynn, they came over?
Correct.
And what grade or how old are they?
Right now, it's kindergarten through 8th grade.
There's kindergarten through 8th grade, and these are all students, they're from Lynn?
And they've done the program already. So they're not new students.
They're all returning students?
Returning
And some are
students.
your family members?
No.
Oh, I thought you said your brother.
My brother
Oh, your brother was
graduated.
the one that,
Mhm.
okay, thank you.
Oh, no, we have, my niece is enrolled, so
Oh.
I believe it's just one.
I misunderstood, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter.
She
That was
asked
it.
my question, thank you, sir.
Great. Okay, so we have the motion on the table. Roll call vote, please, for approval.
Mr. Myko?
No.
Mr. Olympia?
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
For reasons stated before, I'm going to abstain.
Mr. Arnottis?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Was it four?
Bill?
Okay. It's been approved, and, so next year, if we could plan to have you back, and we wish you the best of luck.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Thanks.
Okay. Just give me a moment. Mr. Myko, would you mind giving Mrs. Dunn the... Ms. Murtagh, we will return it to you to continue your report.
Okay. In our packet, last time at our last school committee meeting, we were looking at 2 job descriptions, and this would be the second look at the special education high school coordinator and the special education lead teacher transition specialist as we restructure the high school special education department. So we need approval for those job descriptions.
Motion to approve the job descriptions provided by the superintendent.
Second.
Okay, you've heard the motion for approval by Mr. Hoffman, seconded by Mr. Myko. Roll call vote, please. On the motion, Mrs. Carpenter, did you have a question?
I did, I'm sorry, through the chair to Ms. Murtagh. This is a new position? Is this a reworded position?
It's restructuring of the high school special ed department, so there will be a coordinator overseeing all programs, and there will be, what we're doing is doing away with the department head. And the department head will be the lead teacher and the transition specialist, looking at, I think Mrs. Ruby would do a better job than I explaining, if you'd like her to give a little background.
Well, I particularly had a question about the classification of Unit B. Have you had talks with the union about this? And is there any?
They have a job they have these
They
job
have it.
descriptions, and I am meeting with them in August when they return.
Thank you.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Myko?
Yes.
Mr. Olympia?
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Arnottis?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Thank you. The next is a new job description that is a grant-funded position, Title I position, that in speaking to the principals of the Title I schools, this is a position that one of the principals feels as though is absolutely necessary in speaking with her team, that she would like to add as a job as a Title I grant position, grant-funded position, and as the trauma specialist, elementary school trauma specialist. This person not only will help students and families with wraparound services, they will also be able to teach and coach and do professional development with the classroom teachers around trauma-sensitive schools and social-emotional learning.
Questions for Ms. Murtagh? Mrs. Dunn?
I'll be honest, I think it's a wonderful position. It's sad to say that we need that, but I do think that this is an excellent idea to be able to work with the staff, work with the students, work with the families. Today's world is a very different one, and trauma that people are suffering at home, it comes into the classroom and actually affects everyone in the classroom. In reading this, I realize this is very specific. It's very different than a guidance counselor. It's different than an adjustment counselor. A lot of the same skills are needed, but this person is going to focus on a really necessary focus on some mental health needs that the district truly needs assistance with. So I'm very, very pleased to see this come through, and I thank you for it.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Mr. Myko?
Thank you. Through the chair to Ms. Mertag. I think this is a wonderful position. Thank you for bringing this before us. As Ms. Dunn had mentioned, mental health issues, depression, and all sorts of trauma issues start at the elementary level, and we're the beginning of what could happen down the road. And we've seen some senseless tragedies right up the road here in Danvers, in Winchester, and most recently in Weymouth. And the earlier we can get to these students, the better we can hopefully keep them from doing something down the road that might be a tragedy. So I applaud you for bringing this, and unfortunately we need more than this, as Ms. Dunn said, but thank you for bringing this, and appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Myko. Mr. Hoffman?
Thank you. Through you to Ms. Mertag. So I don't think there's any question that all of us believe that this is a necessary position. I do have some concerns with funding. It's going to take away, we don't increase our Title I grant,
Correct.
right? It's going to take away from some other program, and I don't know what that is yet, and I don't know that you know what that is yet. And are you, through the chair to you, are you looking to hire one school trauma specialist for the 8 elementary, it's an elementary position, 8 elementary schools?
No, I'd like to pilot at one specific school to see how it goes, and then we'll see what it goes from there. And it's allocated, I, in my head, in planning, allocated that funding in the Title I grant. So somebody, a position left, we're going to, instead of a math specialist position, we're going to do 3 tutors opposed to a specialist, and then be able to put in a, hopefully this position.
Okay. And this trauma specialist will be reporting to one principal then?
Correct.
Okay, I was worried about that too, because we have 8 very different elementary schools, and it's hard to report to 8 different bosses.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
one.
Thank
one.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Mrs. Dunn?
I'd like to make a motion to follow the recommendation of the superintendent.
Okay.
Second.
Further motion by Mrs. Dunn, seconded by Mr. Arnottis. Roll call vote on the motion, please.
Mr. Myko?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Arnottis?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Thank you. We have 2 donations, and with your approval, with gratitude, I would like to thank Jose Isidro, from Carroll School basketball coach, for donating his basketball coach stipend.
Motion to approve and send a letter to Mr. Isidro thanking him for his generosity.
Second.
Great. That's a wonderful gesture. Thank you to Mr. Isidro. And heard the motion by Mrs. Carpenter, seconded by Mrs. Dunn. All in favor? It's a vote. Ms. Mertag?
The second donation is a $500 donation from Mr. Collins to the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School through Your Cause.
Motion to approve and send a letter of gratitude.
Second.
Great. I did want to comment. These 2 gentlemen volunteer for the community in a wide variety of ways. Both Mr. Isidro, Mr. Collins are involved in the city in so many different ways, care deeply for our community. So it's wonderful that they already give back to the community, but then to make this additional gesture is terrific. So I think all of us know them both, and greatly appreciate their continued support of our schools and our kids. So thank you to them both, and I think we're all in favor of that motion. So thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Farrell, who has done a wonderful job on the monthly hiring status report. And I want to thank our principals for doing a wonderful job in the hiring process. As you can see on our hiring status report, we're almost home. We're almost there and ready for our start of the 2018-19 school year. So, Mr. Farrell, if you have any questions for Mr. Farrell.
Any questions for Mr. Farrell?
Yeah.
Mrs. Carpenter, I'll turn it over to you.
Hang on, we need to think of a
How are we
question.
looking for all of our teachers? Do we have a lot of positions still empty, or are we going to be on schedule, ready to go?
We're in very good shape, as the superintendent mentioned. The principals, their staff have been interviewing. I would say by another week and a half, we should be in very good shape. I just posted the open, we just posted the open paraprofessional positions this week because I thought we were in very good shape on the teacher side. As mentioned, I think we're in excellent shape compared to last year. We should be in good shape at the start of school. So, thank you.
Great.
And the
Great,
last
thank you.
Sorry. The last thing on the superintendent's report is the letter from Simon Youth Foundation from Dr. Darnell with some data and some of the great things that the Simon Youth Foundation and the Peabody Public Schools as a partnership do together. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Murtak, for the report. Mrs. Dunn, did you have a comment?
Yes, thank you very much for providing us that information on the Youth Foundation. It's really interesting to see those numbers they're striking. They really are. Our Learning Academy is doing very well. I did have one other thing. We skipped over the lead teacher transition specialist.
But we only did the one? The special education lead teacher / transition specialist is one position?
Oh, is it? Oh, it's one.
It's
Oh,
one position.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought there were two separate ones. Even better.
One
Okay.
position. Thank you.
Never mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Murtak. So much better than our previous superintendent.
Everyone look at the camera and wave to Herb.
What did he just say to me on this? Did I read this right? Written communications. We do have one item, the MASC policy newsletter, July of 2018. We'll receive that. And subcommittee reports. Mr. Hoffman, anything on education subcommittee?
Nothing.
Finance, Mrs. Carpenter?
I'm happy to report we have tentative agreements with Unit B, Unit C, and we're scheduling with AFSCME and the crossing guards shortly, and the supervisors AFSCME.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter. School safety,
Yes,
Mr. Olympio?
Yes, we met right before this meeting. We met with the chief of police, and we discussed ongoing security issues throughout the district. And did you want to, I just want to turn it over to Mr. Myko real quick.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Olympia, through the chair to the committee. I've been in touch with the center school, and we've had some vandalism on the tubular slide at the playground. At this point, I'd like to make a motion that we move forward and replace the slide. It could be a safety hazard. At this point, I do have some documents that I received today, cost-wise. It'll be about close to $8,000 total for delivery and installation. I'll be working with Ms. Murtag on this as well. So I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and move forward to replace that tubular slide.
Second.
The motion, I just wanted to add to the motion, we've had some discussions, Councilor Gould and others, about putting that forward to the Community Preservation Committee to see if we could fund it in that way, rather than it coming out of our school budget in any way. Felt that that would be the appropriate, and the support of the committee, the support of Councilor Gould and the City Council, I think that it would be well received by the members of the Community Preservation Committee, and so we certainly can make that vote, but I think that's the direction we're going. Councilor Gould was actually working on some paperwork. He's a member of that committee, as well as Councilor McGinn, I believe, from the City Council. So I think that's the intention, but certainly a vote would be welcome from the committee. Mrs. Carpenter?
Thank you. Some of the discussion in regards to the reason that the vote was coming up tonight is we were concerned that there could be a holdup and it wouldn't get fixed in time for the start of school. So we wanted to have that motion and vote in place in case, because we're not meeting again until the end of August, which is, we were aware of what you just told us, but we wanted to ensure that it was before school started, and by putting this motion forward, we figured that would cover us.
Okay. Fair enough. Mr. Hoffman?
Yeah, thank you. And there was, even though I arrived at the meeting very late, there was some discussion as to having this repaired prior to opening of school. It is a dangerous condition, and I thank Councilor Myko Committee Member Myko for bringing this up. If there's approval by CPC and there's going to be a little time in the process of obtaining the funds, we're hoping maybe through the business manager or through Dan Doucette, that maybe funds could be procured and then reimbursed so that we can ensure a safe environment when school starts.
Great. Let me work on that right away, but yeah, certainly the intention will be to have it for school, because you're right, I drove by, it's a dangerous condition, so let me work on that, and then I know Council Gould is proceeding to get the appropriate votes from the Community Preservation Committee. Okay.
So I'll withdraw my motion.
Uh,
Or do you want to go?
No, have the motion. I think that, I'd like you to be on record with that,
Okay.
Council. Geez, now I'm calling you Council.
Don't call me doctor.
You've heard the motion by Dr. Myko. Seconded by, I think, everybody. All in favor, it's a vote.
Yes.
Thank you for that report. Anything else, Mr. Olympio? You good?
That is it.
Do we, do we need a vote on that appropriation for the renewal of the 1 year? No? I don't know, I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't
No?
know.
Okay.
Athletics and wellness,
Nothing to
Mrs.
report.
Carpenter, thank you. Quality and standards, Mrs. Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to ask if the committee would refer the MASC policy newsletter list to quality and standards so that we can prepare all of those new policies to go into the policy manual. So moved.
Second.
Heard the motion by Mrs. Dunn, seconded by Mr. Hoffman. All in favor, unanimous vote. City Council and Advisory Boards, Mrs. Dunn, anything to report?
Nothing to report at this time.
Building and Grounds, Mr. Myko.
Nothing to report. We will be scheduling a meeting for, I believe, September.
Okay, thank you. Special Education Parent Advisory Board, Mr. Olympio.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Thank you for a good meeting. Items for the next agenda will be handled in the regular course. And again, look forward to working with our new school administrators to continue the fine work we're doing. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.